All right, so what we have is when I click on maximize play here, we brought our character in the scene and we can click and move. What I'd like to do is change my cursor depending on if something is clickable or non-clickable, like a wall. So I'll have it return to my cursor. So let me fire up Brave and we'll do a quick search for some icons and then we can draw our own. All right, so I'm just going to look up arrow PNG. And I'm really looking for like a cursor arrow. So something just like our regular cursor. So it may be something a little more fun. This is kind of neat. So I'll save this image off. Now in my final game, I don't want to use this. I'm going to make my own, probably in either Photoshop or one of the free 3D ones. So let's just name this cursor. And I'm going to see if we could find go to our GitHub. And what I'm doing is actually going into my Alina versus Robots, or I'm sorry, I have so many games I'm working on now. My Psycho Heart, PH, assets, and then the art folder. And I'm going to make a new folder in here called icons because I'd like to code like even a dialogue system. So here's cursor PNG. And then another trick is you could do door icon vector if you want to get something of the same style. And so like this would be kind of cool for a door icon, right? Like you can enter the door. Kind of want something with a little more trim. Maybe um, this one. You know what? We'll just go with this because of the sake of time for the video. So I'm going to right click, save this image, door icon. And if they're royalty free and they're just kind of free icons, double check with the website. You might be able to just get those. And then we could probably do pickup icon. Let's see, pickup icon vector. Uh, maybe item pickup. These are kind of cool, but that's more of like a map system. Kind of like this, even though it has the crotch hatching stuff in there. Let's save that anyway. It kind of looks like a human hand. So let's see, save image as, and pick up. All right, all right. Let me jump back into Unity now. Now what we need to do with our images is, for our icon images, you can see they're all here. We want to select all three and we want to make sure that the type of these things is Sprite, 2D, and UI. And then you want to hit apply. And what that's going to allow us to do is use that inside of a canvas. But what we're also going to be doing is, like I said, as I go over certain items with certain layers. Okay, so let's jump into our mouse manager here and let's double click that script. And if you remember last time, our player controller is used to move our character around, and then we get a reference to our mouse manager over here. And all this does is this is going to be used to control our mouse, right? So we're going to make a couple variables here. So we're going to make one, it's a public layer, and what it is it's going to be a layer mask. And in this layer mask, we're going to have what's clickable. And so let's comment this. Used to store the state of, maybe we'll use several layers, right? So what's clickable, for example, for this one. And then we want to do public texture. 2D. This would be our cursor. And then I'm just going to hit Control D. And then this is going to be our door icon. So door icon, Control D that. Let's do cursor, icon, door icon. And then this would be our selectable icon. So I'm going to save that. Let's jump back into our mouse manager. So here's our cursor, here's our door icon, and here is our pickup icon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste some code in so that you don't have to watch me at 5 o'clock in the morning stumble through typing. So let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can also see that. And so let's start with just thinking about like, well, how are we going to, we have this raycast right up here, these public variables, right? This ray and this raycast, and we want to use it that if we're over certain objects, we're going to flip our icon, and if we're on certain objects, we want to be able to select them, right? Because this is the whole point of our mouse manager. Well, if you remember earlier, we made this layer mask called clickable layer. Well, the variable is called clickable layer, and what we can do is do clickable dot value to get the value of whatever our current layer is set to. So let's go ahead and check if our arrow is over a specific object in the scene, right? So just type if tab to kind of set that up for yourself, and then I'm going to paste that code in. All right, so what we're doing is this. We're casting a ray from our camera, right? And from the center of our camera, we're tracking where our mouse position is. This raycast hit here is storing wherever we are hitting, like whatever surface is. This is roughly the distance. We can change that by making a public variable about how far the ray distance goes into our scene. And then we have clickable.value. Well, how do you set that value? So let's save this and let's jump back into Unity. Now, if you look here, there's clickable, it says nothing, and they have all these different layers. I want this layer to be selectable, right? So for example, I want this to be on a clickable layer, I want the floor to be, and I also want to, let's quickly, and this is the power behind ProBuilder, let's just knock out a door, okay? So let's go to Tools, ProBuilder window, select this door here. I'm going to hit R and hold Shift, and I'm going to hit backspace on this floor piece because we don't need that. And I'm going to move this down. And what we'll do is we'll position this somewhere like this, and I'll hold Shift and move this in. Now I'm going to detach this because I don't want the walls to be clickable. So I'm just going to do, let's see, detach faces, and I'm going to name that door. So here's this, and I'm going to name this door. Okay, and on this door, I'm going to go to default, add layer, and I'm going to make this clickable. Now when I select this, I can mark that as a clickable layer. The floor is also clickable, and this book is also clickable. So back in our script, our mouse manager script here, I want anything that's clickable to do something. All right, so let's save this. Let's jump back into our code. All right, so inside of here, let's do a couple if checks, right? So if tab. So if the object that we're colliding with, right, its tag is name is door, what we're going to do is we're going to change the cursor's icon. And the way you can access a cursor is you simply type cursor. And then that gets you the ability to change this cursor icon. So let me go ahead and paste some of that code in here, and then I'll review that. All right, so let's take a look at this code. Essentially what it's doing is we're checking this raycast, right? What is our current mouse over that we're casting a ray to? And if we collide with an object called door, now remember we didn't create this tag yet, we're going to do that in a second. we're going to grab the cursor from the scene and we're going to set the cursor to this door icon. I also just realized something. I set the images to UI 2D and we need to switch those as well to cursor. This sets the scale, kind of lets us auto adjust the scale, and we could create another image here if we want, or I'm sorry, another public variable in here called set cursor icon. And then, make this of type int or whatever, or float if we want. And then we can copy and paste this inside of here if you want more control over your cursor icon in the scene. So let me save that. Let's jump back in here. Let's do some setup. First of all, let's make sure that we set the cursor icon to like 16 or something. And then let's select our door, and then we're going to add a tag, and I believe it was a lowercase door that we created. Let's remove this thing, some sort of old ghost thing there. So let's go ahead and select door for our tag. And also we need to go in here and select these 3 images and make sure that they're all set to cursor, or it won't work. You'll get some weird image icon stuff. Yeah, so let's press play. And now you can see as we click around, if I move to the door and I click on the door, it doesn't do anything, right? It's just swapping out the image. Another problem we have is our icon stays at the door. And what we want is if we're not clicking on the door and we move it off something that's not door, we want it to switch back to our default cursor icon. So let's jump back into our code. And I'm going to space this out and I'm going to select all of this and just hit Control D. And what I'm going to check is if the object is a pickup like our book, we're going to do some pickup stuff inside of here, and we want to set this icon to our selectable icon. So really, just to keep it sort of the same, I'm going to save that as selectable, and I'm going to make sure that I copy this. And when I jump back in my scene, I can select my book here. Let's make sure we name this book or passport. I forget what the narrative was at first. And then we're going to go to add tag. And then I'm going to paste that in there, selectable icon. And hit save. Make sure this is marked as selectable icon. Let's press play on this. So if I hover here or I hover here, you can see I get a selectable icon. This needs to be a lot bigger. So let's actually, and really what we can do is we can adjust those images themselves too, right? Like, let's see, pickup icon is massive at 32, so let's do 64. We just have to play with the size. And then let's jump back into code and let's finish this off. So if we're not on either of these things, it goes back to our default cursor. So what I'm going to do here is go a little bit lower and then hit Control D to duplicate this. And I'm going to change this if just to an else. Now, if your formatting gets screwed up like this, you can hit Control A to select all, then K and F. I'm still holding Control down, Control K and then F. And with an else statement, you don't have any of this. This is just saying if these 2 conditions, so let's make sure this is an else if now. If this condition isn't true, then we'll go to this one. And then if neither of these conditions are true, we'll go here and we're just going to set this to our default cursor. So here's our cursor icon here. And then let's save that, jump back into Unity, and we sort of need to adjust this a little bit more for our mouse manager, this icon size, because they're different image sizes, so this is kind of a problem too. So we want to make sure that inside of here too, we want to do our max size to 64, and then we want to adjust these images inside of maybe Photoshop or one of these free 3D programs. But now when I press play, you can see I have an icon cursor here. I can click and move around. It switches to a book. It switches to a doorway. So we're getting closer. Something else that would be cool is if we had some sort of highlighting mechanism, or we switched cameras within this scene too. So I think that's good for now. In the next video, I'm going to jump back into doing a little bit of art on this guy. Actually, you know what we should do is we don't really need, here's our player. We don't really actually need this cube anymore because now we have this dude, and then we're just going to be exporting or writing over this guy. So inside of here, you can just go right click, copy component for the rigid body, select this dude, right click paste component as new, and then just go back and forth, grab my nav mesh agent. Let's actually paste that up top. I wonder what layer I pasted that on. Well, I'll just paste it here. And let's see. We don't need that. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, let's go ahead and hide. Oh, we also need our player controller script. It's kind of hiding from me down there. Let's paste this component as new. And now if I hide this dude and I press play, I can click and he's moving in that direction. And you could adjust the speed and stuff. He walks up to the book. He walks over to the door. And that door is massive compared to our little guy. So we'll adjust that too. All right, I think that's good for now.